Can the Gulls possibly play spoilers in this year's Calder Cup playoffs? We'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason J.D. Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade. Also currently the public address announcer for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and have also contributed to Defend the Nest. And this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. So we are here on Gulls Thursday, live from Acrisure Arena, which means obviously we are taping this Wednesday night. Before we get into this one, just want to give a quick shout out to Trey Matthews and Robin Lianio from Locked On Devils and Locked On Coyotes. The Coyotes just had their final game at Mullet Arena right before we recorded this. So, I'm going to, if you see that, that'll be on the Locked On Coyotes. We had a big crossover, so do check that out because we have a lot of thoughts on hockey in the desert. All right, let's get into the last week of Gulls hockey. I said on the outset, are they going to play spoilers? The quick answer is no. The Gulls are obviously out of a playoff race, and the last three teams that they played are, all playoff contenders. The Ontario Reign, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and the Colorado Eagles, all top four teams as of this recording, because that can still change. Ontario can still finish second, third, or fourth. Colorado could finish second, third, fourth, or fifth. I mean, that race is just BS crazy. And Coachella Valley, well, I'll talk about that in a second. But here's my takeaway. I guess if there's a takeaway from the last week, is that the Gulls do not give up without a fight. And that's despite losing a very, very prolific scorer in Sam Colangelo. In case you missed it, Sam Colangelo did sign his ELC with the Anaheim Ducks last week. So he did play 4 games. He played against the Barracuda. He played against Tucson. He played against Bakersfield. And it was after that game, it was this time last week where it was announced that Sam Colangelo wasn't going to play any more games with the San Diego Gulls. And I was really excited about seeing Colangelo possibly finish off the season in San Diego. But it was this time last week where Colangelo did sign the ELC with the Ducks. So he got called up to Anaheim, which meant that Anaheim would have a bit of a scoring punch. And for what it's worth, Sam Colangelo scored in his AHL debut. He scored in his NHL debut. So losing Colangelo, the lines kind of sort of went back to normal before he was there. But you kind of realize, how much he brought to that team. And he brought a lot to the San Diego Gulls team, because in those 4 games, they beat San Jose. They took a point from Tucson, and they beat Bakersfield. So they were looking sort of pretty good. 5 points in 4 games. And then all of a sudden, the last 4 games, they've earned but 1 point. Yes, this is a team. This is an organization that has had a lot of injuries, and they've had a lot of players called up. My question is, what's going to happen next season? Which players will make the Ducks and which ones will not make Anaheim and go to San Diego? But for what it's worth, a lot of these kids that are playing right now in San Diego, they are skating to prove something right now. And there's some good talent on this team. And I'll throw a couple names out there. Andrew Lucas. I mean, the Ducks organization did a great job of finding someone like Andrew Lucas, who was kind of relatively came out of nowhere. And he's contributed to the team. And he's one of the new skaters that I've been fairly impressed by. Andrew Lucas, a bit of an unknown, still only 25 years old. He just made his AHL debut just a few days ago, and he's looked pretty decent, actually. So I like seeing him play. Nathan Gaucher, I thought, has been kind of a nice little surprise. Niko Mijatovic is another player that I kind of want to see more of, possibly next year. So there's some talent there. And someone else that I think he stepped up in a role that I don't think he anticipated, because I think there was the thought process that he was going to be further down the line, but he's had to step up because of injuries and because of guys getting called up sooner than we frankly thought. And I've been impressed with Drew Hellison. Yes, this is his third season in the AHL, and I legit thought that he would have more of a chance in Anaheim. But the way he has stepped up this season, this goes without saying, but he could be a very good piece for San Diego down the line. And just the fight from some of those guys, like, they are playing like they have something to prove. They're not just playing, for the team, but they're playing to stick with the team next season. They're playing to try to crack an NHL roster this season, and that's something that I have liked watching a couple of games in particular. I mean, the game here at Coachella Valley, that was one of the better games that I've seen from the San Diego Gulls, and they just did not give up. I think that's one of the hardest luck defeats for San Diego this season, and they've had a lot of hard luck defeats. The one we just saw here a few days ago, that was about as hard luck as you could get. San Diego did not deserve to leave this building with no points. They didn't. And that was kind of one of those, yes, I'm a professional. Yes, I'm, doing public address for the Firebirds. And yes, I'm excited to see the Firebirds win. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, that's a tough way to go. That was a tough loss, which I will talk about more in detail in a moment. But that's kind of been the Gulls a little bit this season. They've been in a lot of games. There has been a lot of lack of puck luck. There has been a slew of games where the Gulls have lost by just one goal. There's been a lot of them. There was the game against the Firebirds, 1 goal. The game against Ontario, overtime goal. The game against Tucson the previous week, 1 goal. The game against San Jose, that was a shootout. That was also 1 goal. I'll go back even further than that because, there's some pretty recent games where Bakersfield lost by a goal. Texas, another close game that they could have won. There was a Milwaukee game, also 1 goal. So many hard luck losses, but at least they're not getting blown out every night. I mean, at least they're not the San Jose Barracuda, giving up nine goals. There's still some fight in this team. And I'm really curious to see what San Diego does in their final 2 games against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. It's going to be really fascinating to see what both teams do, to be honest. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission. I'll talk more in detail about these last 4 games because there's a lot of them. And then after that, we're going to talk about this very wild Pacific Division race. Stay locked in. And now, a brief word from Monopoly Go. Well, I'm a pretty competitive person, and, I know I am. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. Super great twist on Monopoly, where you play on not one, but, several Monopoly boards in crazy locations, like Hollywood just down the road, or Sydney, Australia, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. Not just my competitive side loves it, but, I can team up with friends and people from all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play today. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, live from Acrisure Arena. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez, and let's talk about the last 4 games, and I'm really going to talk about 2 more so than the others, and I want to start with the game just down the road in Ontario, California. I'll admit, that was a fun game to watch. I mean, I was kind of just riveted by that whole game. Did I think San Diego deserved to win that game? Probably. Did Ontario play their butts off in that game? Also, yes. This one meant a lot more to the Ontario Reign because at the time, they were kind of, right there between 3rd and 4th place in the Pacific Division. So they needed at least a point to stick with the 3rd seeding, and an additional point would have given them the 2nd seeding because that's how close the Pacific is. And, right from the start, Ontario looked like the team that was going to blow out San Diego. They had that fast start. They were bludgeoning the Gulls in shots. Francisco Pinelli got the opening goal for the Ontario Reign. Even though they were only up 1-0 after 1, this game could have easily been 2-0, 3-0, even 4-0 Ontario, if not for the exceptional work of Tomas Sukanik, who's been exceptional this season. Well, not exceptional, but I would say he's been fine. There have been some tough goals against him, but given the quality of opponent, given the quality of shots that he has faced, I think he's done a pretty solid job in net. So I have to give credit where credit is due, to be honest. So Sukanik definitely kept them in that game. Then the second period, someone that I just mentioned, Drew Hellison, who I still think has been kind of an unsung guy for the Gulls. He tied things up early in the second. And then on the power play, Ontario once again let out their secret weapon, Samuel Fagemo, with his 40th of the season. My goodness. On the power play, no less. So that made it 2-1 Ontario. And then later in the period, Trevor Carrick, one half of the Maple Bros, he scores on the power play. All right, that's fair. Then we go to the third period, and that's where it got very, very dramatic, because Taylor Ward was awarded a penalty shot in the third period. This is where I started getting text messages. I happened to be here at Acrisure Arena. Firebirds had a game Friday night, and the Gulls were in Ontario Friday night. I really wanted to go to Ontario because, final game, but I'm here. And, just to see it, unfold on my phone, what's happening. Oh, my God, it's a penalty shot. Oh, my God, it's a penalty shot. Goal from none other than Taylor Ward. No, not that Taylor Ward. The other Taylor Ward that scored on a penalty shot. He just got beat. He just got beat on that one. That was a clean shot, making it 3-2 Ontario. So then how does San Diego respond? The Regenda agenda strikes again. Pavel Regenda scored his 18th of the season. Perfect play, making it a 3-3 tie going into overtime. So San Diego earns at least a point. Could they possibly play spoilers against Ontario, who are desperate to get both those points? The answer is no, because San Diego really shot themselves in the foot, massively shot themselves in the foot in the very end. A couple of penalties that they probably shouldn't have taken. Glenn Godden got nailed late, and Samuel Fagemo on the power play won it just as Jeff Pope said. 1 minute remaining, and he couldn't even get the whole thing out because with 58.5 seconds left, Samuel Fagemo scored his second of the game. Ontario would win it 4-3, and San Diego's the hard luck losers on that one. But you thought they were hard luck losers in Ontario. No, they were hard luck losers here at Acrisure Arena, because San Diego was here just a few days ago against these Firebirds, and this was the very definition of a puck luck game on both sides. Coachella Valley, this was the game that the Firebirds did want to win, because at the time the Firebirds had not yet clinched the number 1 seed, so San Diego could possibly play spoilers and delay that party. Well, it looked like that might happen because Coachella Valley did need both points in order to gain home ice throughout the entire Western Conference. They had to worry about what Milwaukee did. And early on, San Diego kind of came out hot. Coachella Valley wasn't resting anybody yet. They still had something to play for, and there was a little bit of concern when San Diego had more shots. They had the better shot quality too. Alice Setska got the start for Coachella Valley, and it was Callie Klang. It was, Wu Klang for the family. He looked good in that first period. Alice Setska had to make some massive saves, so there was a bit of puck luck on that side. Also on that game, there was something that happened there in the first period where there was a shot that went off the post and the light went on. Then the goal horn went on, but the goal horn went off because the light went on. And, Coachella Valley thought that they scored a goal in the first period. And they didn't. It went off the post. So, of course, San Diego's going like, what the heck was that? So, and the goal light just kept going off. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to keep it professional. But, the goal light probably shouldn't have gone off, and I'll leave it at that. So it remained 0-0. Shot off the post. Then the second period, San Diego came out with their butts on fire. They won the faceoff. They caught Coachella Valley sleeping to start the second period. And Drew Hellison, once again, as I've mentioned, has looked very good lately. He was the fastest skater on the ice for a lot of the game. Like, it's a good sign when a player is noticeable, and he was noticeable. He was skating circles around some of the Firebirds players. So he made it 1-0 San Diego. And then, later in the second, Cameron Hughes scored his 25th of the season, the first goal for the Firebirds, to make it a 1-1 tie. And Hughes just picking up the change on that one. Shane Wright did get it towards the goal. And credit to Cameron Hughes for sticking with that play and just getting it past Alice, or getting it past Callie Klang. So 1-1 going to the third. And it was 1-1 all the way to the end of the third. Oh, man. This is where I kind of was excited because, Firebirds goal, but also shook my head how? What just happened? Coachella Valley had possession of the puck in their own offensive zone with only a couple of minutes left. San Diego beginning to kind of fight for their lives, but I legit thought this game was going to go into overtime. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. And Connor Carrick kind of just shifted it towards the goal, towards Callie Klang, and it deflected off of newly arriving Yanni Newman. Yes, that's how you pronounce his name. Yanni Newman got the puck deflected off of him, and he scored his first American Hockey League goal. This kid just came out of the plane from Europe. Only his second AHL game. The young Finn scored on a deflection, and that made it 2-1 Coachella Valley, and that's your final score. That goal just came very late in the game. And boy, wow, that's a tough loss for San Diego. Great win for Coachella Valley, because with that win, the Firebirds clinched the number 1 spot for the entire Western Conference. But for San Diego, oh boy, there are tough losses, and there are tough losses. That was a tough loss for San Diego. I mean, that was one of their better games of the season against a very good opponent. They outshot the Firebirds 30-22 in that game. San Diego had some good grade A chances in this one. Stetska had to make some fantastic saves, a couple of game-saving saves as well. And they just couldn't get a second goal past him. And it took a greasy goal. It took a deflection for someone to win that game. And unfortunately for San Diego, Coachella Valley was the beneficiary of that. So with that one, Firebirds won it 2-1. The game after that, I don't really want to talk about this too much because I watched enough of this game to know that Colorado just came out with all the energy in that first period. And when you go up by a massive amount early on, there's no turning back from that. Colorado, I did see all of the first period. Colorado had all the energy, all the momentum. They need as many points as they can get because they're fighting for playoff position. They scored 3 goals like in a short time, just bang, bang, bang. And they were all late in the first period. Callahan Burke, then Chris Wagner, then Jean-Luc Footy made it 3-0 Colorado. Colorado outshot San Diego 15-5 in that first period. And then to begin the second, Colorado had all the momentum. They scored a couple more. Chris Wagner, then Spencer Smallman scored. After that, Colorado said, you know what, we're good. We got a 5-0 lead. They did relax after that a little bit. And you could tell. And by that point, San Diego was like, like it's over, isn't it? So Colorado won that one 6-0. San Diego got shut out from this one. Yeah, we had to have a goalie come in relief. Thomas Sukanik allowed those 5 goals. And not even halfway through the game, Alex Stalock had to come in relief and had to finish it out. So that's how that one ended. And then the game that took place as we're recording this Wednesday night, so earlier tonight, I did have to watch a little bit of this game to understand that I like Andrew Lucas's game. One of those players that I think, you know, where the Gulls found him, I don't know where they found him, but I'm glad they did. You know, he looked solid in there. But again, Colorado just had a big period, and that their big period happened to be the third period. San Diego was tied 1-1 going into the third period against Colorado, and the Eagles just had all the energy coming out of that locker room and wound up beating San Diego 5-3. So the Gulls couldn't play spoiler, and the standings are all a jumbled mess. And I will talk about that after the second intermission. Stay locked in. Now a very brief word from Policy Genius. And it's the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that begin at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head over to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason J.D. Hernandez. It is a late night here, so I'm going to try to wrap this up fairly quickly. The Gulls trying to play spoilers has not worked out, and the last 2 games are actually not going to matter for either the Gulls or the Firebirds, because with that win against San Diego, the Firebirds clinched the number 1 spot in the entire Western Conference. So the Firebirds will have home ice advantage all throughout the West Finals. But they cannot catch Hershey because the Hershey Bears have won the Kilpatrick Trophy. So they will have the number 1 overall seed throughout the entire Calder Cup playoffs and will have home ice advantage for the entirety of the Calder Cup playoffs. So the Firebirds cannot lose number 1. They can't catch Hershey. So the Firebirds are just finishing off the season with 2 games at the Gulls, or against the Gulls, 1 at San Diego, 1 here at Acrisure Arena on Sunday. As for the Gulls, they're out of the playoffs, so what are they playing for? You know what? I kind of want to see like the best from the Gulls on these last two games. Saturday's game, we might still see some players resting for Coachella Valley, rest guys for the playoffs. Sunday's game, they could bring back the entirety of the big guns for one more game to finish off the season because they have the first round bye. They're going to have at least 9 days off before they play again. So they're probably going to want to play a lot of their big guys. Riker Evans is expected to return for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. As far as players from Anaheim going to San Diego, I would hope that some of those guys would at least play the final 2 games in San Diego. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because, the Ducks season will be finishing, then the Gulls season will be finishing as well. So it partially doesn't make sense, but I would at least like to see some of those current Ducks go back down to San Diego for at least one more game, at least the home finale on Saturday, and then go from there. So that's what's coming up. A back-to-back Gulls versus Firebirds on Saturday and Sunday. With that, we're going to look at the standings because it is close. How close is it? Well, the Firebirds, they have clinched that number 1 spot. They sit at 100 points in the Pacific. Tucson, 89 points. Ontario, 89 points. Colorado, 85 points. Abbotsford, 83 points. Bakersfield, 81 points. Calgary, 78 points. And each of those teams have exactly 2 games remaining. So what does that mean for seedings? Well, a lot could change for seedings in the last couple of days of the season. As of right now, Tucson and Ontario have clinched home ice in their best of 3 series in the first round. So Tucson and Ontario could be second or third. In fact, Tucson could be second or third. Ontario can be second, third, or fourth. Colorado is the big wild card here. They can finish third, fourth, or fifth. Abbotsford could finish fourth, fifth, or sixth. Bakersfield can finish fifth, sixth, or seventh. And Calgary can finish sixth or seventh. So there is still a lot to be determined as far as playoff seedings. I mean, the Firebirds are just kind of sitting back waiting. But for those other teams, it's really going to come down to those last few games. I mean, Tucson could fall to third. Ontario could go up to second, or they could fall to fourth. And it's going to come down to that 2-game series between Ontario and Colorado. That's going to be, something to watch for. So, if you have AHL TV, check out those games. They're going to be entertaining as heck. So that's our look at the AHL's Pacific Division. With that, we're going to wrap up this version of Goals Thursday. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. And I just want to say this one more time. I just did a crossover with Robin Leonio and Trey Matthews. And I'm just going to say it one more time. Hockey works in the desert. Hockey works in the Sun Belt. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube, so check us out there. You could follow me on Twitter X at StimpyJD, and the show's Twitter X is at LO_Ducks. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. We're going to open up the mailbag again next week. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. And I hope to see a slew of Gulls fans come down here to Acrisure Arena on Sunday. Hope to see a lot of you come down. Or I'll see you guys on Saturday. I'm coming down Saturday, so I hope to see a lot of you there. For Locked On Gulls, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks and Gulls fly together.